Adapted from archaic translation by H. T. Francis. Source. Adapted from archaic translation by H. T. Francis. 530. Jakata number 530. Samkicca-jataka. At sight of Brahmadatta, etc. This story the master, while living in the mango grove of Khuddaka, told concerning the murder of his own father by Ajatashatru. For owing to Devdatta and at his instigation he had his father put to death. But when sickness arose in the schemer congregation following upon the division in the order, Devdatta resolved to go and ask pardon of the Tathagata, and, as he was journeying in a stretcher to Shravasti city he was swallowed up by the earth at the gate of Jetavana monastery. On hearing this Ajatashatru thought, because Devdatta was an enemy of the Supreme Buddha, he has disappeared into the earth and is destined to the Avasai hell. It was owing to him that I murdered my holy father, that king of righteousness. I too shall surely be swallowed up by the earth. And he was so terrified that he found no enjoyment in his royal splendor. And thinking he would rest for some time, he had no sooner fallen asleep than he seemed to be dropped into a world of iron 9 leagues thick, and beaten as it were with iron spikes and devoured by dogs continually snapping at him, and with a terrible cry he rose up. So one day at full moon during the Catermasia festival, when surrounded by a great group of attendants of courtiers he thought on his own glory. He thought that his father's glory was far greater than this, and that owing to Devdatta he had killed so excellent a king of righteousness, and while he thought on this a fever sprang up in his limbs and his whole body was bathed in sweat. And considering who could drive away this fear from him he concluded that except Dasabala there was no one, and thinking, I have sinned greatly against the Tathagata. Who truly will take me into his presence? And concluding there was no one but Khuddaka, he considered some way of getting him to go with him, and uttering a joyous cry, "Oh sir, what a lovely clear night it is," he said, "what if today we were to pay our respects to some monk or Brahmin?" And when the virtues of Purana and other teachers had been sung by their respective disciples, without attending to what they said he cross-questioned Khuddaka. And on his telling of the virtues of the Tathagata and crying, "Let His Majesty pay his respects to the Lord Buddha," he ordered elephant cars to be got ready and went to the mango grove of Khuddaka. And approaching the Tathagata with an act of homage and being kindly greeted by him, he inquired of the reward of asceticism in this present life. And after listening to a sweet discourse on this topic from the Tathagata, at the end of the sermon he announced his discipleship, and having been reconciled to the Tathagata he went his ways. From then on distributing alms and keeping the moral law he associated with the Tathagata. And listening to his sweet discourse on the righteous path and keeping company with a virtuous friend, his fears diminished and his feeling of horror disappeared, and he recovered his peace of mind and happily cultivated the 4 ways of behavior. Then one day they started a discussion in the Hall of Truth, saying, "Sirs, Ajatashatru after killing his father was terror-stricken and finding no enjoyment in his regal splendor he experienced pain in every posture. Then he went to the Tathagata and by associating with a virtuous friend he lost his fears and enjoyed the happiness of lordship." The master came and asked, saying, "What topic, brethren, are you now engaged in discussing in gathering?" And on their telling him what it was, he said, "Not now only, but of old too, this man, after murdering his father, through me recovered his peace of mind," and he told a story of the past. Once upon a time in Benares Brahmadatta had a son, Prince Brahmadatta. At the same time the Bodhisattva was conceived in the house of the family priest. And at his birth they named him young Samkicca. The 2 lads grew up together in the palace and were great friends. And when they came of age, after acquiring all learning at Taxila, they returned home. Then the king appointed his son to be viceroy and the Bodhisattva still lived with him. Now one day the viceroy, when his father was gone to enjoy himself in the pleasure garden, saw his great glory and conceived a longing for it, thinking, "My father is more like a brother. If I shall wait for his death, I shall be an old man before I succeed to the crown. What good will it do me to get the kingdom then? I will kill my father and make myself king, and he told the Bodhisattva what he thought of doing. The Bodhisattva rejected the idea, saying, "Friend, the murder of a father is a serious matter. That way lies the road to hell. You must not do this deed. Please do not kill him." But he spoke of it again and was opposed by his friend for the third time. Then he consulted with his attendants and they fell in with the idea and devised a plot to kill the king. But the Bodhisattva hearing of it thought, "I will not wife with people like these," and without taking leave of his father and mother he escaped by a house door and hid himself in the Himalaya country. There he embraced the ascetic life and entered upon the supernatural powers arising from ecstatic meditation, living on roots and wild berries. But the prince, when his friend was gone away, put his father to death and enjoyed great glory. Hearing it said that young Samkicca had adopted the ascetic life, many youths of good family gave up the world and were ordained by him to the ascetic life. And he lived there surrounded by a great company of ascetics, all of whom had already reached the attainments. The king, after killing his father, for a very short time enjoyed the pleasure of kingship, and then was terror-stricken and lost his peace of mind and was like to one who had found his punishment in hell. Then calling to mind the Bodhisattva he thought, "My friend tried to stop me, saying the murder of one's father was a grievous thing, but failing to persuade me he ran away to keep himself free from guilt. If he had been here, he would not have let me kill my father and he would free me from this terror. Where in the world can he be living? If I knew where he was living, I would send for him. Who can tell me his place of dwelling?" From then on, both in the harem and in the court he was ever singing the praises of the Bodhisattva. A long time afterwards, when he had lived 50 years in the Himalayas, the Bodhisattva thought, "The king remembers me. I must go to him and teach him the righteous path and remove his fears." So attended by 500 ascetics he passed through the air and descended in the garden called Dayapasa, and surrounded by his band of ascetics he seated himself on the stone slab. The keeper of the garden on seeing him asked, saying, "Holy sir, who is the leader of this company of ascetics?" And hearing it was the sage Samkicca and himself recognizing him he said, "Sir, stay here until I bring the king. He is anxious to see you." And making an act of homage he went with haste to the palace and told the king of his friend's arrival. The king came to see him, and after offering all due civility he put a question to him. The master, to make the matter clear, said, "At sight of Brahmadatta thus enthroned in royal state, he said, 'O king, the friend for whom you are compassionate, Samkicca, lo! Is here of saints the chief in fame is he. Set out in haste and delay not this holy sage to see.' So quickly mounting on the chariot prepared at his behest, the king surrounded with courtier friends set on upon his quest. The emblems 5 of royal pomp straight removed the Kasi lord, umbrella, turban, yak-tail fan, with shoes, and his sword. Then stepping from his chariot the king, stripped of his bright dress, to Dayapasa Park, where sat Samkicca, took his way. The king came near and greeting him with words of courtly phrase, recalled the talk they had held together in old days. And as he sat beside him, when occasion fit arose, a question as to sinful deeds he moved fast to propose. "Samkicca, lord of saintly band, great sage, whom here I see sitting in Dayapasa Park, I gladly would question you. How do fair sinners after death? Born to what state are they? I too have erred from righteousness. Your answer quick, I request." The master, to make the matter clear, said. Samkicca thus addressed the king who ruled over Kasi land, sitting in Dayapasa glades. "Know, sire, and understand. Should you point out the road to one gone hopelessly astray, and he should follow your advice, no thorns trouble his way. But he that walks in evil ways, should you direct properly, and he should follow your advice, escapes from full of suffering plight." Thus did he advise the king, and moreover taught him the faith, saying, right is like the high road. Wrong is but a by-road. Right to heaven sure wins its way. Wrong to hell leads men astray. Men that transgress the law, O sire, and live unrighteously. What fate they suffer after death in hell, now hear from me. Sanjiva, Kalasutta, and Raruva, great and small. Sanghata, great Avasai, are names that may well apply. With Tapana and Patapana, 8 major hells in all. Escape from hence is hopeless, and of us 8 as they tell. Twice 8 times more in number, a kind of minor hell. Dread flames here torture sinful men, all cruel deeds many. Horror, amazement, anguish, suffering and terror reign around. 4 square with 4 times doors is each, in due proportion spaced. With dome of iron it was overarched, by iron wall embraced. Its base of iron rod is such no raging flame may melt. Though even 100 leagues around its mighty power is felt. All that have outrage done to saints or injured holy men, fall headlong into hell's abyss, no more to rise again. In evil plight their mangled frames, piecemeal like fish on toast. For their misdeeds through countless years in hell are doomed to roast. Their limbs consumed with burning heat, to torture dread a prey. Though eager to escape from hell they never find a way. Seeking an outlet to and fro to east or west they fly. Or baffled hurry north or south, a hopeless quest to do. For gods are there to bar the way, whichever door they try. Poor souls, for many thousand years they dwell in hell's domain. With arms outstretched they much mourn their overwhelming pain. Like deadly poison snake whose anger it was fatal to arouse. Shun to attack the saints that lie bound by ascetic vows. Ajana, lord of Khuddaka's, great archer, who annoyed Gautam, was despite his bulk and 1,000 arms destroyed. So Dandaki defiling Kesavaka, sinless one. Like palm tree from the roots cut down, was utterly undone. Medha for famed Mathanga's sake fell from its place of pride. The land became a wilderness and king and people died. Assailing Black Dipayana the men of Vishnu race. With Andhakas looked for Yama's realm, each killed by others' mace. Cursed by a sage, Sika who once could walk the air, they say. Was lost and swallowed by the earth on his appointed day. The self-willed fool can never gain the approval of the wise. But deceitless souls, equipped with truth, are slow to utter lies. Whosoever would lie in wait to catch some wise and holy man, hurled down to hell will quickly learn to regret his wicked plan. But who with treacherous cruelty shall aged saints assail, shall like a dying palm tree stump, childless and heirless, fail. Whosoever some mighty sage, a priest of life austere, shall kill, in Kalasutta hell shall suffer torture many a day. And if a wicked maga king his realm should overthrow, he shall when dead in Tapana like sufferings undergo. 100,000 years, as gods count years, he's doomed to dwell, clad in a robe of living flame, midst agonies of hell. Bright jets of fire on every side shoot from his tortured frame. His very limbs, hair, nails, and all, serve but to feed the flame. And as his body burns at a fast pace, anguished through and through with pain, like a prod-stricken elephant, poor wretch, he roars much. Whosoever from greed or hatred shall, foul creature, kill his sire, in Kalasutta hell long time shall suffer in fire. In iron cauldron boiled till he shall peel. The parent's killer is pierced with shafts of steel. Then blinded and on filth condemned to feed, he's plunged in brine, to redress his deed. Then goblins, between his jaws, otherwise they should close. Hot iron ball or plowshare between. These fixed with cords his mouth so firmly support, they into it a stream of filth can drop. Vultures, both black and brown, and ravens too. And birds with iron beaks, a varied crew. Tearing his tongue to many a fragment small. Devour the quivering morsel, blood and all. The goblins moving to and fro. Assail the wretch with many a blow. On his charred breast or broken limb. With cruel glee they buffet him. The joy is theirs, but sufferings abide. With all that in such hell reside. For earthly crime of parent killing. The son that kills his mother straight to Yama's realm is sent. In retribution for his deed to reap due punishment. Their powerful demon seize upon the guilty mother killer. And plow with iron shears his back in furrows deep and wide. The blood like molten copper from his wounds that flows they take. And give it to the guilty wretch, his burning thirst to satisfy. He stands plunged in a crimson lake as it was of clotted blood. Breathing foul stench of rotting flesh, foul or evil-smelling mud. Enormous worms with iron mouths, piercing their victim's skin. Devour his flesh right greedily and suck the blood within. In hell 100 fathoms deep sea the victim sinks. While for 100 leagues around dead body like he stinks. By reason of the stench, O king, such is his sorry plight. Though once possessed of vision keen he suffers loss of sight. Passed out from Khuddaka hell, grim prison house hard to flee. Abortionmongers escape not your dread stream, Vedarani. Silk cotton trees with thorns foot long of iron wrought, it is said. On either bank, Vedarani, overhang your gloomy bed. All clothed in flame, one mass of fire, they stand against the sky. And all blazing with brilliant light tower a full league on high. Here fixed upon sharp thorns red hot in hell appear to view. Unfaithful husbands, guilty wives, the whole adulterous crew. Beaten with stripes headlong they fall, revolving in their flight. And there with mangled limbs they lie awake the livelong night. At dawn they hide themselves in iron cauldron, known to fame. Big as a mountain it is and full of water like to flame. So clad in wrongdoing like a robe these sinners night and day. For their ill deeds brought long ago, fit retribution pay. Whosoever as wife bought with his gold her husband shall despise. Or shall regard his friends and family with ever contemptful eyes. Her tongue, wrenched out with hook and line, shall suffer agonies. She sees her tongue drawn out all full of worms, nor may complain. Silent unavoidably, in tapana enduring awful pain. Killers of sheep and swine and cows, and followers of the chase. Fishermen, robbers, cruel all, making excuses as if these were fair. Assailed with swords and iron clubs, headlong, these men of blood. Pursued with spears and arrows fall into a briny flood. The forger, harassed night and day with club of iron forged. Feeds only on the filthy mess by some poor rogue vomited. Crows, ravens, vultures, jackals too, all armed with iron jaw. Entomb the struggling wretch alive in their insatiate stomach. Who shall with beast hunt beast to death, or bird with bird shall kill. Overwhelmed with sin shall sink to hell, to regret the cursed day. Thus did the king describe all these hells, and now making an opening in the earth he showed the king the angel worlds and said. Through virtue stored on earth of old the good to heaven attain. Here Brahmas, Devas, Indra, lo. Ripe fruit of virtue gain. This then I say, bear righteous sway throughout your realm, my king. For justice done is merit won, nor ever regret will bring. On hearing the religious discourse of the great being, the king from then on was comforted. And the Bodhisattva, after staying some time there, returned to his own place of dwelling. The master here ended his story and said, not now only, but of old also was he consoled by me, and he identified the birth. At that time Ajatashatru was the king, the followers of Buddha formed the company of the ascetic, and I myself was the sage Samkicca.